What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today. We're doing Nubatamas. It's been a while with the Ninja Clan. We're actually going to do a Hanzo Jamyocongo deck build. This is for premium. Honestly, the whole deck is pretty much V-Series, so you could probably actually play this in standard and be just fine as well. So let's get right into it. On to the grade 3s. So we're playing the 4 Hanzo, the 4 Jamyocongo, and 3 of the Kokushugi Gurasu. Wow. I actually saw that kind of decent. I call him Goku for short. But anyway, most decks play the 4-4. I've seen a couple builds reduce the Jamyocongo to 3. I've seen builds actually play this guy at 4. It's give or take. Honestly, what I like about Hanzo and Jamyocongo, they work in two mutually exclusive scenarios. And what I mean by that, so let's just cover Jamyocongo first. So when it's placed or when it's at the end of the turn, basically your opponent can only have 6 cards in their hand. So they have to discard the remaining cards. Now, if you have a grade 3 in Soul, that becomes 4. And so your opponent is actually losing cards in hand and their hand size is shrunk. And it's limited to that size. So it's very powerful. And so when you re-ride, you can essentially put your opponent at 4 cards and they kind of go ham from there. In Hanzo, basically his skill, you retire 2 grade 0 regards. It doesn't have to be tokens, it could be triggers too, grade 0s. And basically it gets 20k power up until the end of the turn. And then you choose any number of regards on the field and actually bounce them to hand. So you can choose yours and the opponent's, either or, it works either way. And then of course, if your opponent's grade has a Vanguard that's a grade 3 or greater, then the cards they returned on their end, they actually discard the same number. So you essentially almost kind of like do our pseudo retire on their field, but they get to choose which units they discard. So it really it depends on to them. So in one and so what I'm saying is that in one scenario, you get to eliminate if they put a heavy field, or you get to hit them if they have a heavy hand. And so this kind of keeps them in check and kind of guessing. And so what I liked about this deck, if there is a way to have the option to do either one depending on the situation, it would be better, because that means that will be in your favor, and then you can do your plays following up with that either on your grade 3 turn or on your strike turns. And so what I did, I took some inspiration from one of the new Batama players. He did a deck profile too a while back. He actually put more filter cards, and I'll go over which those are exactly. And honestly, you just need several key pieces that you want to have. And honestly, with 4 Hanzo and 4 Jamyocongo, it's pretty easy to have one of each by your grade 3 turn, essentially. And then the Kokushiniyama, this is the guy that everybody hates. Soul Blast 3, discard 2 Sentinel cards. This gets 15k power up, and then you return all your opponent's rear guards to the hand. And if at least one of them will return, then they discard 5 cards. So you can destroy their hand, putting them to like no cards in hand. Thus, they have to take every attack that you're going to dish out in that turn. And you can combine that with the Hanzo play, you get the Jamyocongo play, or even your stride turn play. So it's just a really good rear guard that you just plop down, and it's very easy to do because you are a Protect clan, and if you do Protect 1, you have a Sentinel Protect marker. And you can use the Perfect Guard and a Protect marker, and you're already there. All you need is just to have the Soul Blast 3, and you're good to go, which is pretty easy to maintain, actually. So let's get into basically the grade 0s, the grade 1, and grade 2 to see how this actually promotes this. For the grade 0s, we have the on-right Jarwan starter over here on the very right. Magatsu Win. It could be either one. It doesn't matter. But the point is that you want to have availability to the cards into your hand so you could actually do your plays as you go in your turns, and then you can filter out with your filter cards. And then with the trigger lineup, I actually liked a lot. I noticed that a lot of new Watama players played this kind of like 6 crit, 6 draw ratio. And they kind of fluctuate between the 7-5 ratio as well. But thanks to being like an Aqua Force player, I'm already used to the 6 crit and 6 draw feel. So honestly, this is pretty similar, and I already know how to like play with this. And of course, you have the 4 heal. And then back to the crits, we have the one that goes into Soul plus 15k. So this is the card that you can't really play in V-Series, but you would just change it out with regular crits like these guys. I like both art, so I put in the... And then for the draw triggers, obviously the PGs, so that way we have grade 1 rear guards that we could actually use. And then again, for the 6 draw, we added these guys. Since we have filter cards, we could actually discard cards like these that actually have low shield value, and then possibly get a combo piece or even a higher shield value card, which we do. And oh, I actually almost forgot, we have actually another grade 0. There he is. He's hiding. Nice. But anyway, we actually play another grade 0 too. He was hiding behind the hill triggers. Hagakura. Damn. I gotta work on those names. But anyway, he has a really good rearguard skill and a guardian circle skill. So basically, when he's placed, choose one of your units and increase or decrease this unit's power or shield to match that unit until the end of the turn. And so you can do some really power plays on both turns. So basically, he could be an offensive rearguard, especially since you have units that get power. Like Hanzo becomes a 32k Vanguard. If you're not striding, then you could just copy this. It'll become basically 36k on its own. So you have a beat stick. You can even copy strides because they inherently get plus 15k. So it's typically a 27k attacker at that point, or even a booster because it is a grade 0. It has the boost ability, so it can boost, making powerful columns. So you can power up the grade 3 like the Goku, for example, or even Magatsu Gale. And then for the guardian purposes, you can G guard, or you can use this trigger, or even your crit triggers, and you could just pop this down, copy the guard shield, and just have a very defensive play. This basically is a value card. It was playing 2 before, but because I made room for filter cards, and I realized that I think I can get away with 1, and so far it's been working out for me. So I definitely recommend trying it out. I know actually ShiHai on YouTube actually was playing this at 2 for a while. I actually asked him to. He's like, I love this card too. So if he's playing in it, I definitely suggested that you guys try it out. All right. For the grade 1s, I'm playing 10 grade 1s. As you can see, we're playing 10 instead of like 11 or 12 or 13. I actually had to make room, so I cut a grade 1 for this guy. So just to go over some of these, Sagaru Fubiki, if I said that correctly. He has a rearguard skill. Basically, when he's placed, if you have 3 or more units, counts himself as well, and the Vanguard. You can discard a card from your hand. This gets +3 until the end of the turn. And then if you have 1 or less cards face up in your damage zone, then you could draw a card and actually countercharge. So he's the main guy that you actually want to use to consistently countercharge, so you can keep doing your plays that cause counterblast, such as your grade 2s that actually cause a counterblast, and sometimes your strides too as well. It's a very good card, helps filter, it's a countercharger at the same time, and if you do the grade 2 turn, which I'll explain a little bit, he basically makes it free, and you can even extend at that point where typically if you needed 2 counterblasts, you can use him and get away with using 1 essentially. Like I said, I wanted to promote more filtering, and Dreadmaster is that purpose. So Vanguard Rearguard, which I like because you can ride this on purpose and you get the filter. Discard a card and then draw a card. Like I said, you discard like a draw trigger and you can get a combo piece. The rest of the skill is dependent on the Kuchuri Kongo Vanguard, which we don't play. So don't worry about that. It's just for literally the filter. You can guard with it, and honestly, you can bounce them back with Hanzo's skill. So you can reuse them the same turn or in a later turn, essentially. Or just use them for shield, because they are grade 1s. They have the 10k shield, so that's valuable as well. And then for over here, we have the Kurigiri. He is the grade 1 that generates tokens, the evil tokens. So basically, Soul Blast 2, bounce it back to your hand, call to 2 tokens. I honestly don't use them that often. That's why I was actually able to drop them down to 2. Using the grade 2 is more better because you're conserving your soul for the grade 3 that actually Soul Blast straight, the Goku, right? So you can do that play. And then there's other cards that use the soul, like Gale, but he refunds the soul, but he doesn't do that until the end of the battle that he attacks. And so this is like a Soul Blast 2, and it's gone forever. So he does come up once in a while, so that's why I actually still play him. So just in case, you never know, and that kind of thing. So yeah. On to the grade 2s. Now, this is where the fun begins, really. So the grade 2 turn is actually really good for Nubutama, especially when you have Magatsu Gale. He's Vanguard Rearguard, on plays, Counterblast, Soul Blast, draw a card, and this unit gets 6k until the end of the turn. So he becomes a 15k attacker by himself. His second skill, it's a Rearguard skill only, so at the end of the battle that it attack, you may put this card into the soul, and then you bounce one of your Rearguards to your hand. And so essentially, you want him to be on the Rearguard circle, actually. And then you bounce it, and you actually work it with this grade 1. There we go. And so that way you call it, draw a card. You probably draw this card, then call this. You refund the counterblast, and you discard and draw another card. And then this becomes 11k, so you can actually have an 11k booster with its 15k power up, making it a 26k column. And it's actually really good in even in the stride turns, because it's a really strong column just by itself. So Even if your opponent got a trigger, it can still hit. And then the grade 2 turn has more options too on top of that. Now with Zangetsu. And Zangetsu is on Vanguard or Rearguard. You can counterblast, call an evil token on the Rearguard circle, and that token gets the ability of boost. Because evil tokens can't boost by themselves. They had to actually be given the ability. Zangetsu is one of those. And +5. And that stacks. So if a token already exists on the floor and you keep using the skill, because it's not once per turn, that 5k stacks up on that token. So you can have a beefy token that could either boost, for boosting purposes essentially, because I don't think they can actually attack. It's only for boosting. And then the second skill is that when it is attacked, you may change the attack to one of your tokens and bounce this guy to hand. So he protects himself basically inherently, and you just sacrifice the token. It's kind of like the substitution jutsu they do in Naruto. I think that was really cool, to be honest. So yeah, definitely use that. One of the plays that I like to do is that basically I would ride this as Vanguard, call this, use the Counterblast, Soul Blast, draw a card. He's beefed up, and then you call the Grave One on the other column. You countercharge, and then you can use the same Counterblast with this guy, generate the token over here, and call it as a booster. And essentially, what you have done is this L shape. And then with the L shape, you could do grade 1 attack, then the Vanguard, and then boom. This will be a 20k column. So if they're even a 10k Vanguard, if they got a trigger, that still hits. And then once he attacks, goes into Soul, bounce to grade 1, and all you left is the Vanguard and the token. And the token can be used as an intercept as well, if you want to use it as that. Or you can save it for next turn, essentially. So I thought I wanted to show that off because now you have that ability. And that's why I still play the Magetsuge at 4. And it helps dig deeper in your deck as well. And then the combo play you can do with Zangetsu with 1 or 2 counterblasts. You can be very aggressive. I'm actually planning to do a combo video just to show the different variations you can do on the grade 2 turn and also on Hanzo turns as well. So it's really synergetic. And the same thing to go along with this is Akura. He is one of the new grade 2s, and he's really nifty. So when he's placed, retire 2 grade 0 regards, draw a card, and this unit can attack from the Vanguard from the back row, and it gets 15k. So it's a 24k back row attacker. And if you retire that, and of course you got to retire it too, and you draw a card. So it replaces itself and helps you dig deeper as well. And you can get 4 attacks that way, and if you have another 1, you can get a 5th attack, and ultimately if you have 3 and you're somehow able to retire that many grade 0s or tokens, you can get 6 attacks. Kind of like a blue wave with like Valeo's build. But anyway, it's a really solid card. 24k beater. If you don't really need to have a 4th attack, you could always move them up to the front row as a beater and still attack, and then you intercept with them. Especially if you don't think you're going to bounce him with Hanzo's skill. Because once he's placed, that skill is only used for that turn, and after that, he's just a deck card. So you can intercept with him, or you could just bounce him back with Hanzo and then kind of redo that turn and just get advantage and just set up with a turn like that. So, and it's still good on the strike turns as well. So it's just more power, more aggression. Sometimes I feel like even though you cripple your opponent's hand with some of the card abilities, you still would appreciate more attacks to probably finish them off, especially if they're like at 4 damage or even maybe 3 damage. And sometimes they get a 6-0 damage. So just having that extra attack honestly can seal the deal, essentially. Now, onto the strides. We actually have quite a few selections. Of course, that's the restriction that we can't use Ren or Rene, however you pronounce it, the Shirine stride. So we have to use different options. So the first guy that we use is Magen Tembu. Basically, counterblast, flip himself. Choose one of your opponent's rearguards, give it plus 3k for every card face up in the G-zone, and then have it attack the Vanguard. And then at the end of the turn, retire it. So it's basically one of the cards you could actually use to retire stuff and then also dominate at the same time. You can use them first stride, just kind of get a little poke in, just to basically have an extra attack. Obviously, it gets bigger at the later in the game, but most of the time you use different strides to finish off the game. But he's still there for first stride, and then he could be used in the later game too. So, going into a Taga Lord. A Taga Lord is actually one of your key finishers. So, essentially, you ride Jamyocongo on a grade 3 already, and your opponent goes to 4. And with just that, a Taga Lord can attack, Counterblast 1, it has to be GB2 by the way, Counterblast 1, flip a copy, bind one of your opponent's cards from hand, and if it's 3 or less, he goes critical. And so, you already brought them down to 4, and then boom, 3 cards right there. So he'll go critical. So he's one of your finishers because you can kill your opponent from 4 damage just from his single attack. And if they have to guard it, they have to use 1 or 2 cards. Most of the time, it's you kind of have to either take it or guard with 1 or 2 cards. Probably 2 cards because of a PG, or just risk it all in that sense. So it really puts your opponent in an awkward position. And the fact that he gets crit too, it kind of seals the deal, especially if they're 4 damage or 5. So you can finish the game that way. And so it's really the replacement for Rin. So it's the best wall we got. But it works, and it's nasty. And you can even combo off with the Goku too. So you can just like rip their hands still. And if they have no cards in hand, then you can just attack, straight to the face, basically. And then you still have your rear guard columns that you can still poke if they're at low damage, and you can kill them from there. Or if they somehow 6 damage heal. So then you got Mujin Lord as well. Persona Flip, Counterblast. For every card face up in your G-zone, choose that many rear guards on the field. You could choose yours as well. They all get plus 4k, and if you chose any of the opponents, they actually get dominated and attack the Vanguard 1 by 1. So obviously, when they're at 5 damage, and the more you can dominate, the better. That's really what that card is. So it's kind of a finisher at that point too. So we still play the Mujin Lord. And then we have Makuro. Makuro is a GB2 strat. You Soul Blast to flip anything, and then you dominate your opponent's Vanguards. Typically, it's their grade 3, so it's either Excel or 4, so it's a 12k, 13k Vanguard. It immediately attacks all their rear guards at that point, and so it basically kind of retires their field. You get the drive check, and you also discard for cost as well. You get the drive check, so you get twin drive most of the time, and then this will be the normal, basically, attack triple drive. So you can see actually 5 drive checks in that turn. This is kind of cool because basically you can rip their hand, or if you need to retire their field and you don't have Hanzo on the Vanguard, like you're on Jamyocongo, you can stride into this and actually eliminate the field if that's the route to go as well. The other card that we play is Tembu. Tembu is free. So he's one of those options where like your opponent may have denied Counterblast and you can't really Magnum Tembu. All of your strides basically use a Counterblast essentially. And so this is a freebie. Again, the dominate happens when you start your battle phase. So there's that. Also, we play the dragons. So the Xerath Dragon Drachma. Honestly, you can do a very nasty play. So if you stride first and G guard, your following turn, you can do the Jamyocongo play. Put them to 4. Go into Drachma if you have another copy of this. And Drachma forces them basically to discard 2 and ride 1 from hand if possible. And you literally just drop them to 1 card. Not only that, you retire their entire field as well. So it puts them in a really bad spot. And you're on an ultimate stride on top of that. So you're 36 or 37k in this case with rear guard columns, and you can kind of go ham from there. And then the other one, the Gilga, is actually pretty nice, especially if you can get them first stride and they have a decent field. You can basically just hit their entire field. It's a Counterblast 2 and a Soul Blast 1. So be mindful of the Soul. And basically it gets 10k, and then it has a red tech skill where it hits, it can countercharge. So, and it can attack all the units on the opponent's side. So if for every attack that hit, you countercharge. So the Counterblast 2 isn't really heavy because you'll refund it more than likely. In fact, you might even refund more. And it attacks the whole board. So it eliminates the whole board if they still have one, and you set yourself up basically where you don't have to pay the cost of stride at that point. So yeah. Whoop, I almost forgot one card. We also play the Sukurumotoken. I'm getting better at these as I go. GB2 skill, Counterblast 2. Any card turn to face up, and then you can actually, your opponent chooses all the cards, binds them all, and keeps 4. And then they return back to hand. So essentially, your opponent gets down to 4 cards in hand for the cost of 2 Counterblasts. Whether Jamyocongo, basically on right, do it for free. Now, the reason I play this card still is that basically, if you don't have the Jamyocongo and you're on Hanzo, and you do have the Goku, you can just stride into this, make them go to 4, and then just do the Goku play. So it's kind of like a pseudo Jamyocongo with the cost of Counterblast 2, essentially. And again, you can actually probably put their hand down to 0, and the goal is actually to kill them that turn. Because the cards that they bounded will return, so if they had like a 15 card hand, they're still going to get the other 11 cards that they bounded, right? For example. So you definitely want to finish him that turn. So he always got left out. But yeah, anyway, G guards. Onto the G guards. I'm playing 5 G guards. 2 of them are the Gando Kurikan. He's really good for the shield value wise. He gets +5 if your opponent has 3 cards in hand. And then it has a comma basically. And if they had 6 or more, this also gets an additional 10k. So basically it becomes a 30k shield, which is pretty much your biggest shield with the exception Shashu Kahimi. However, her skill is GB1. She's the flip G guard basically. And the problem was that basically your opponent chooses to discard a card. And if they don't, then this card actually gets a shield value of 20k, which is really big. But the problem is, it's like, well, I'm going to discard the card and push through. And now you have to, like, come up with the guard. Now, before it wasn't a problem as much because it's a 15k shield. Back then, heal triggers were still 10k shields. But now we have 20k heal triggers, and if they do that, you basically just G-guard it for the sake of G-guarding. Which might make sense if you're trying to get to GB3, which is to Drachma, or up the GB count for Mujin Lord or somebody like that. But it really just depends. So I don't use her for the shield value unless I know my opponent doesn't have cards in hand. Like if they lived and they're trying to do a final push and they called everything from the hand to the board, that is your perfect opportunity to use her. So that's one helpful scenario where you can actually get the shield value. And then we have the Gehorakan. Oh, these names, I swear. Counterblast, Soul Blast, dominate one of the opponent's grade 1 in the back row, and use it as Shield Guardian. Before it was kind of okay. It was nice because it was disruptive. You know, we had cards like Negrobone from Night Rose, or just, you know, making big columns like a big booster like a Doreen and DI, for example. You could just scoop those out, get them out of the way, and use them as shield value, and your opponent's just like, well, that's kind of annoying. But it's for that play. Now, grade 1s have 10k shield, so it has a little more shield value to it too, which is good. More shield, more better, right? And so I only play 1 because it does cause a counterblast. So if you're spending a counterblast on your opponent's turn already, it can be detrimental to your follow-up turn to actually push through and win. So just be wary of that as well. And then I have the Rakdom. You can use like Gleam as well. It's the discard draw one basically. Because sometimes, like I said, the more filter the better. And we have access to a G-Guard that does that exactly. And so we can discard unnecessary grade 3s if we have a bunch, or the draw triggers that are just low shield value, and then just benefit from that. And then of course you G-Guard it so you're closer to your Drachma, your GB2 enable if you went grade 3 first, all that kind of stuff. So all good stuff. This concludes the deck profile, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. I actually have a lot of fun with the Nubatama style now. I like Dominate a lot too. But now with the flexibility of like Maigatsu Gale, with the early aggression, the evil token generation, just the combos that Hanzo and Jamyocongo now bring to the table, it's really fun playing Nubatama. Now, for the people that face Nubatama, maybe not so fun. But it is what it is at that point. But anyway, I hope this is something you guys like. Give a like, comment down below, share, and subscribe. See you, amigos. Signing out. Bye.